Welcome to Flying Upstream, the podcast where we uncover the choices, practices, and wisdom that defy mainstream conventions. I'm Kristyn.
And I'm Luisa. And together we're here to illuminate the alternative paths that have shaped human experiences through the ages. In each episode, we'll examine ways to move beyond societal norms. We're passionate about how timeless wisdom and unique lifestyle choices can foster healthier, sustainable, and enriching lives.
Join us as we navigate, challenge, and celebrate the beauty and insight of walking the road less traveled. If you've ever felt like you're flying north for the winter while everyone else is flying south, you've found your flock.
Today, we're diving into the powerful journey of Crystal Robinson, an empowering coach who blends her personal journey with her passion for holistic wellness. After overcoming significant health challenges like lupus and a brain tumor, along with navigating the emotional toll of toxic work environments, Crystal embraced the transformative power of mind-body-spirit integration. Her coaching approach combines energy healing, Ayurveda, mindfulness, and holistic nutrition to help clients turn life's challenges into pathways for growth. She's here today to share her story and inspire us all to find our own resilience and inner strength. Welcome to Flying Upstream, Crystal.
Thank you very much, Kristyn, for having me. I'm honored to be on your podcast.
I'm so excited to get to know you a little bit better. I know that you've been through some major life challenges, from health battles to the toxic work environments. What was the real breaking point for you? And was there a moment when you hit rock bottom, or was it just a series of events that made you finally decide to make a change?
I hit rock bottom a couple of times. I think the very first time I hit rock bottom was in 2013, and then I had to kind of pull myself out of that. And that was basically mostly from all the traumas in my life that had built up and culminated in medical traumas. I was having anaphylactic reactions to foods and trying to stay away from those foods, those allergies I had, but still ending up in the hospital like 6 times a year. It was very traumatic. And the last one had me there for like a week because they couldn't handle the medications, and my heart was going crazy from the EpiPen and all of those. And that really like put me at rock bottom because I was so scared to eat anything, to do anything, that I was going to leave my 2 young children at the time without a mother.
That
So that was like
scary.
the biggest one. And then I had numerous ones after that with the lupus and the brain tumor and losing my dad. And each one, I think, was a catalyst to help me learn to grow in a different way.
Yeah, it sounds like that. And I can appreciate that, as you said, it was multiple rock bottoms, right? And we think as we go through life, we all have experiences, and we think like, oh my gosh, this is the lowest point. This is the worst. I cannot possibly go on. But we still find a way. We find a way to go on and do the very best that we can. And just when we think we're rising up, something else happens. And I'm curious how you would connect this to the mind, body, spirit connection that you talk about in your coaching. Because let's be real, many people hear that, the mind, body, spirit connection, and they think it's just buzzwords. So what does that mean to you, and how do you practically use this in connection to healing yourself and others?
So the main reason is because I had multiple catalysts and I didn't know how to deal with them because I wasn't dealing with more than just the body. I was dealing with just the medical stuff in traditional medicine here in the US, the Western medicine, and just listening to what they had to say, taking the medications, doing the things, and not really thinking outside the box. And that big breakdown, that fear of just living under medication, that big hole literally put me on anti-anxiety medication because I just couldn't even function. I was just like afraid to do anything. And that medication kind of made me stagnant. It made me just exist, but I wasn't living. I like wasn't me at all. I don't know if I was before that, but like when I came out of that, the only way to come out of that was actually start doing the mindset work. And that's when the mind body connection comes in. I was doing that mindset work of, what am I thinking? What am I doing? Am I living my life authentically? Am I doing things that I should be doing as opposed to what other people think I should be doing? A lot of times we grow up with certain things put on us that you're going to be a wife, you're going to be a mother, and you're going to be a career woman, and you're going to make money, and you're going to do all these things. And that becomes who you are, but it may be not who you authentically are. So you go forward that way. And so for me, I had to start doing that mindset work and seeing a therapist, finding somebody who worked for me regularly and working through my anxieties around food and having medical trauma. And that was the first. And then when the lupus happened, I was like, okay, you're not doing enough. And that's when the spirituality came in, like really connecting with my core beliefs, doing that inner work, like going within the meditation, that was huge for me. Specifically, just being able to be alone with myself and my thoughts and really figuring out what it is I truly wanted and needed, as opposed to just being the wife, mother, career woman, doing everything for everybody else.
Yes, and
That's where I get the mind, body, spirit. And so by the time the brain tumor happened, I was just like, okay, let's go. What's next? And it was like everybody was like, why aren't you like freaking out? So now if another catalyst happens, and like when my dad died, like the catalyst happened and it was like catastrophic, but it was okay, this is what I have to do. Like I have to make sure I'm listening to my body, number one, because otherwise it's just going to throw another disease at me if I'm not listening to it. I have to analyze the mind, question the mind, make sure I'm not letting the inner voices take over. And I have to be innately within myself, that spiritual element that I am divine. We all are divine. And we have to go within to really find what that core is.
Yes, yes, and yes.
That's a lot. That's a lot, but
No.
that's kind of how it worked for me.
I want to take a moment to acknowledge this immense achievement because this is something that I think is so important for our listeners to really understand, which is the fact that when you are not listening to your body, when you are doing what society or your family has just told you to do your whole life, and you're ignoring your own deep connection to yourself, to the universe, that's where all these issues can come up. Like you talked about the disease, not knowing your own self, not being able to adequately cope with difficult situations, that's where all of this can come up. So it's not even just about getting back to a baseline where you can just function. What you've done is actually taken it up a notch, and now you're really thriving. And that I think is the key here. That is so important when we're thinking about just living your life, because this is something that is true for everybody. Everybody has some kind of disease, maybe to a small degree or a large degree, but everybody has something. Everybody will have somebody in their life pass away at some point. This is for everybody. So this is so significant, but at the same time, really needs to be commonplace. It needs to be something every person on the planet does.
Yeah, I think we all have to just talk about it. Are we being authentic? Are we really within ourselves? And are we listening to ourselves? Are we living in integrity, or are we living to somebody else's drum?
Exactly. So I'm curious to know, when you're in the midst of that chaos, how do you actually reclaim your power? And what do you do when everything feels out of control and you feel like you're at your lowest?
So for me, it was learning how to do that meditation, learning how to go within. And meditation isn't what everybody thinks it is. It's not just, oh, I'm going to sit and be the guru, oh, close my eyes. It could be literally just taking a walk in nature. It could be putting on your favorite music and just connecting with the music. It could be just closing your eyes, feeling your heartbeat, and taking a few breaths. Like literally just pausing and letting the chaos slow down, because there's very few things that are immediate, that are urgent. But in today's society, everything is urgent. Like a life or death situation, that's urgent. But everything we do almost is treated that way these days.
Yes.
All like just jumping to answer the phone or jumping to do this or jumping to do that. And we're not even thinking about, well, where is my time? Where am I connecting with myself? Where am I connecting with the earth or the environment or my spirituality or my prayer or whatever that is? Even a basic prayer, that is meditation. And that just slows everything down. And for me, being that wife, mother, career woman, I was just constantly, my husband would always tell me, slow down, because I trip, I was clumsy. I was
Oh,
just constantly on the highest level. and then you would just crash, and the crash would be usually something in your body because your body keeps the score.
And I want to take it a step further than just meditation, which actually, before we do that, I do want to say I love how you explained it, that it's not just what we see on TV or in movies. Somebody sitting there with their eyes closed, it's completely silent. You're not allowed to think of anything. You have to have a blank mind, right? That's not really the intention. The true intention of meditation is to reconnect with yourself, with nature, with your roots. That's really the true intention of it.
Mm.
And then in doing that, then you're clearing your mind and being open to receiving inputs from other places, we'll
Yeah.
say. So
Yeah,
I
from your
love that.
subconscious mind.
Hmm.
There's so much there that's not right there that you're tapping into. And actually slowing everything down and quieting, it's not about you can't shut off the thoughts. The thoughts are never gonna shut off. You have thousands and thousands of them every minute. It's just not doable. You just have to slow down, calm down, connect with your body, connect with your mind, connect with your spirituality, whatever that may be, and you will be surprised at how quickly the creativity spikes. Like your mind just all of a sudden, "Oh, I have room." They always talk about we only use like 10% of our brains. Well, this is why, because we're going so quickly thinking about the next
Hmm.
thing.
I love that. Okay, so let's take it a step beyond meditation. So many people will consider getting a diagnosis like lupus or surviving a brain tumor as life altering, but also potentially life ruining, right? And
Mm.
you've managed to turn these into catalysts for personal transformation. How do you avoid letting those experiences just crush you and instead use them to fuel your passion and your career?
So for me, the lupus kind of crushed me for a while. And the medical traumas that I was dealing with, the anaphylaxis, being like allergic to one thing after another, and like being afraid to eat, those did crush me. And you do start to kind of live in the identity of the illness, right? That just becomes
Mhm.
who you are instead of actually not letting that define you. And it took a lot of work for me to kind of come out of that. And by the time the lupus came, I was just, I don't know how to fight this. They said, you're going to have it for the rest of your life. There's nothing you can do. You're going to be on medication. All we can do is manage the symptoms. And unfortunately, the medications tend to make it worse for me. And I got to the point where I was not dancing. I was not doing fun things. I was having issues with all of my joints and in pain and just would want to just sit on the couch and watch movies. And I was trying to find other things to do, trying to change my actual lifestyle around the disease as opposed to making the disease work around my lifestyle.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
and that's what I learned. Ultimately, it just took a while. Like, after I sat in it for a while, I was like, "Why? Why am I letting this change my life?" It really took me being in it, like, being letting it define me to realize that, "No, no, I'm not gonna this isn't one of the life I wanna live," and starting to, like, step out of that, and then finding other alternatives, and using that to move forward, and I think that's just something we all have, right? We all will overcome something in our lives from the time we're babies until we die. And
Mhm.
how long does it take for you to actually flip that switch? And each time you do something like that, you flip the switch quicker. So with the brain tumor, by the time that came along, I was just like, okay, I'm going to cry about it for a minute. I'm going to worry about it for a minute. Okay, now I'm going to go in and do research. How do I fix this?
Yeah. That's
It's just
amazing.
process the emotion. Okay, move on.
For people out there who may not be or have not had such extreme medical conditions like you have, it might take them longer to get to that point that you have, right? Because when you're not being faced with really harsh adversity, you just kind of stay in the warm, lukewarm place you've been in your whole life. Not that I would recommend hitting rock bottom, but in some ways, it actually seems like it has helped you make progress and move forward and get to a much healthier place now. Would you agree with that?
I do agree with that, but my mission is to inspire people with my stories so that they don't get a brain tumor, so that they don't end up in rock bottom. Like, look at the situations in your life. Look at how resilient you've been, because everybody's been through stuff. And maybe it's not as crazy as lupus or a brain tumor. I mean, I've met people with things that are worse and that they've overcome, or maybe you haven't had people close to you die. there's certain things that happen in your life that you overcome, losing a job, even
Mhm.
like changing your work environment or changing your home environment, breaking up with somebody, a divorce. We all have crazy stuff that happened in our life. And it's just, how resilient were you? How long did you live in that victim mentality? And what resources did you use to get yourself out of it? Because those are your innate resources and you can use those for everything.
So it sounds like you're speaking about having certain tools for growth. Tell me a little bit more about that as you're speaking about facing fears and using adversity as that tool for growth. I would think some people would think, isn't it easier said than done? So, curious to know, what are the internal battles that people don't see when you're trying to push through to the other side, and how do you overcome them?
Well, I think you have to, like I said, look at your past resiliency because I think everybody's tools are different, right? As a coach, I can offer up a bunch of different tools. I can say, oh, these are the ones that work for me. These are other ones that I know about that work for other people. But most people have to find what innately connects with them. It's like not everybody's a painter or not everybody likes the same type of music. We all have an individual strand of DNA. So our healing is going to be individual, and what works for you will be different for another. Some people may be living in depression, and what works for them may not be the same thing of 10 other people that are coming out of depression. So what I do with clients is really, let's go into what your struggles are and what your vision is if tomorrow you didn't have that struggle. And really looking at what that vision is, like seeing beyond where you are. You really have
Mhm.
to have a vision of this is where I want to be instead of living here. And once you can see something outside of it, then your brain actually starts working to get you there. And it
Mhm.
could be little small shifts. It could be just your thinking. It could be maybe you take on something like meditation. Maybe you start exercising more. Maybe you just start reading more about things. It could be anything. There's not one tool that works for everybody.
I like that. I think that is so spot on because we often hear, buy this product, buy my course, it will fix everything for you. But what you're saying is that that's not necessarily true. And that it's really important to know yourself first before you can find the right solution, right? If you just go out and buy, oh, this shirt will help you feel better, it's a bright yellow color.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you don't like yellow, right? So I
Right.
think that's a really, really great point that you've made there. And I thank you for bringing that up. I want to circle back to something you said a little bit earlier about dancing and kind of being creative as a tool for healing. So,
Mm.
can you dive into that for us? And why do you think something like dance, which is something so physical, can become a powerful method for overcoming mental and emotional trauma?
It's actually proven, dance specifically to help the brain in trauma. And I didn't know that until after I did it. So after when in my rock bottom, the thing that pulled me off of taking the anxiety medications and all those things is I just decided to do something that I like to do. And my daughter was a dancer. She did all the dance classes growing up, all the competitions, all the teams, all of that stuff. And I was the dance mom. And I did do some forms of little bit of dance when I was in high school and like cheerleading and stuff, but that was it, very little. And I just knew I loved it. I loved watching it. I loved being a part of it. I loved dancing at a wedding. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to go take a ballroom dancing lesson. So I just made an appointment because it was like, I have to start thinking about me. And I went in there and I did that lesson and it lit me up. So I just dived in totally, like lessons all the time, groups, competitions, shows. I did everything and I loved it because it was all about, you couldn't think about like the things that were going on in your life. You had to think about, where's my body moving? What's my partner doing? Listening to the music, connecting to the beat. Your brain can't think about the dishes, the laundry, the project at work, the issue with your sister, whatever it is that's going on in your life. Your brain's not thinking about that while you're dancing. It's your feet, your brain, the pressures, your partner. It's all of that. And so once I started doing that, within a few weeks, I literally was off of all the medication. It
That's
had proven
amazing.
that it helped me reconnect with myself. And when you specifically said that thing about connecting with yourself, so I work with a lot of different clients for a lot of different reasons. I'm a national board health and wellness coach. And so I work with people with diabetes and high blood pressure, and I can help them with their like nutrition and their lifestyle and that. But I also work with people in the spiritual realm and connecting with themselves. But ultimately, all of my clients, it all comes back to their relationship with themselves and understanding themselves. And I originally used to say it always comes back to relationships because there's always some relationship in there. But like your relationship with food, your relationship with your spouse or your partner or your friends, it all starts with the relationship with you.
Okay, wow, that kind of blew me away. And I couldn't agree more. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And I look back at how I was raised, which that was not a consideration at all. It was all about making my parents happy, making sure everyone around me knew how successful and how smart I was and wearing the best outfits. That was what I was taught. Those are the important things in life is being popular, being skinny, being wealthy. This is how you live your best life. That is what was taught to me. And now I know better. And I think a lot about the message that I'm sending to my children too. I have 2 little kids, and it's not just about what I tell them, I have to role model it too. So it is about, as you said, taking time for me to step away. I'm going to go for a girls' weekend with some friends because I need to relax and sit by the pool for 3 days. That's important. And getting back to that relationship with myself. And it's not enough for me to tell my daughter, hey, let's go do some yoga. I need to do it with her there. And then she joins me because she sees it's really fun. It's all about that. And that's something I think a lot about in raising children that we just I just didn't get as a child, and putting so much priority and so much weight on it now, I'm starting to see how just the way they speak and the way they talk about things is so different. And it really does make me happy.
Yeah, and that's a great feeling to have. Like I actually went through all of this transformation while my kids were growing up.
Hmm.
So they were exposed to all the different versions of me. And do I go back and go, "Oh, what did I do to my kids?" Yeah. Yeah, all the time. As a mother, we always do that, right?
Of course.
But then I also think about, "Oh, they saw me transform. They saw me go through all these things, and now they're young adults, and they see a whole different version of me than they saw when they were 10 years old." And all I can do is be better now and be like, "I'm sorry, I didn't understand myself. Like these are generational traumas. They come from your great parents to your grandparents to your parents to you, and they're like innately within you. Like, why are you crying? I'm going to give you something to cry about." Like, how many people have heard that?
Yes.
And those are the things that like just kind of come down through the generations, and we're all stressed as parents, and we have to have compassion for ourselves for doing those things. We're noticing when the words coming out of our mouths are the same as our parents. Like, oh, yeah, it's just ingrained in me. I'm doing better. I'm working on it. I'm getting aware of it, and it'll get better.
Yeah.
So don't beat yourself up. But yeah, whatever you can do to be better is better for you, and then it is better for everybody around you.
That's a great point. I often try to remind myself progress over perfection, because I grew up with perfection is the most important thing, but I don't believe that anymore. Progress is more important. That are striving towards a goal every day. I try to get a little closer, a little closer. Sometimes I have an off day. You know what? It happens. You just try again tomorrow.
Yeah, I agree with that. The whole progress over perfection thing. I think a lot of us grow up, I think especially as women, it's like, oh, there's a lot on
Yeah,
us as women to be perfect, to look perfect, to be perfect. There's just so much that we just are innately conditioned to be.
absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, I want to circle back to your coaching that you mentioned.
Mhm.
And I know that you help people access their inner strength, but I want to cut to the chase here. So, most people don't feel empowered in their day to day lives. What's one thing you know for sure about why people stay stuck? And how do you help them push past it?
It's the limiting beliefs. We all have beliefs inside of us that are put on us usually by other people or circumstances and things that happen around us that we maybe don't completely believe. They're just there and it kind of drives us. And the example I give people is, so I'm all into holistic wellness now. But when I was in my 20s, no woo woo, no holistic, no nothing outside of science. That was the way I was brought up. That was anything outside of that was crazy. And I was married fairly young in my 20s, and my husband was having neck and back issues, and he wanted to go see a chiropractor. And this was many, many years ago, and it was kind of new. And I was like, I heard that that's quack. And so that was a limiting belief. That was a belief that was put on me from my upbringing, from people around me, that anything outside of Western medicine was quack or woo woo or didn't make any sense or didn't work or was a scam. And that's a limiting belief until you actually do it, see it, are around it, observe it, understand it, research it. That belief isn't 100% true. So asking yourself, I believe this. Why? Why do you believe that? Is it 100% true in you? The limiting beliefs is huge. Once you start questioning everything you know, question it. Is this really, like, have that curiosity? Is this really what I believe? Or is this just something I think I believe?
Mm-hmm.
Something that's making me go a certain way because it's what I've been taught or what I've learned or what people have shown me. And until you actually have it as your own feeling or emotion or experience, it's not really core belief. Core beliefs come from experience, not from something that somebody tells you what to do.
Mm. I would imagine, because I have certainly overcome my own limiting beliefs for sure. Part of it is just recognizing what your limiting belief is and that you don't really believe that. It's been what's been taught to you. But then being, in my own experience, kind of having some fear around coming out, if you will, with that, knowing that your family, your society, your network is going to disagree with you, shame you, make fun of you. How do you take that next step there?
That comes back to self, your relationship with yourself, your self worth, your divinity, understanding where you are in the world, that your individual DNA is different than every other person on this earth, on the planet. So your beliefs are going to be yours, right? And actually learning to question yourself, like coming back into yourself. What other people think is based on their experiences. Their judgment, their shame, their guilt is based on them and their experiences, not yours. And
Mm.
until you understand that, it's not personal to you. When somebody's coming at you, what you think it's about a situation that you two are dealing with, it's their experience that's coming at you, not yours. So it's like nobody else is going to tell me anything about a brain tumor experience unless they've had one themselves,
Mm.
right? They can give all of their beliefs on it, right? But like I've lived it, right? And it's my experience, not theirs. So even somebody else who had a different brain tumor experience, their experiences, their beliefs are coming from their experience. Mine may be completely different. So you got to realize that judgments come from everybody and it's their stuff, not yours.
Okay, I'm writing this down. That was so amazing. That was amazing. I think that I need this on a post-it note on my computer or something. Like, I love that because I do feel like in my own life, like for example, I'm vegan. I did not grow up that way. It was all about meat and barbecuing, and we had red meat for all of our special holidays. And as I got older, I started hearing things. I started doing my own research and decided that I don't want to eat animal products. That's not for me. I want to be vegan. But I did come across a lot of people, coworkers, my mother, just people saying like, why would you do that? And what do you even eat? And where do you get your protein? And all these questions that you're just like, oh my gosh, come on now. But, for other people, as you said, that is their own limiting belief. They've been taught that meat is healthy for you. And I'm not passing judgment on people who believe. That's how I was raised too. But I can see exactly what you're talking about when you say remembering that other people's reactions are built on their own limiting beliefs and their own experience. And that is so important to remember as we're going out and doing things that are true to who we are at the core, right? Like I'm vegan, I strongly believe in it. I personally will never go back to eating animal products. And I'm okay with that because I know that's right for me. And people around me are welcome to eat anything they want. That everyone's on their own path. So that was just beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Well, thank you for sharing that because that's a great example of how limiting beliefs and other people's experiences and judgments can come on you. What's their fear about, well, they don't want to do that because they're afraid of giving something up or they're afraid of why you're doing that. And that's their own. It's not
Right.
yours.
Yep.
And it's really hard for people not to let other people's judgments affect them. It's not an easy thing. It's a
True.
constant process of awareness. Like you're always going to be maybe what they call triggered or feel like you're going to have a reaction to somebody saying something. And then it takes you a minute. Like it goes back to that take a second, breathe, calm all the nerves. Be like, oh, this is them. This is their experience. And
Mm-hmm.
the same thing is true for like your life partner. My husband and I have been together 36 years. We still do that. Like stuff comes off of him about me. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's just his.
Mm.
And it's still, no matter how close you are, they're not living in your body, in your brain, in your divinity.
Yes. Yes, it is so true. Just beautiful. Okay, let's circle back to the topic of resilience here. So you've built your career around guiding people to resilience, but do you think sometimes resilience means sacrificing parts of yourself? Do you think it's possible to truly thrive without losing something along the way?
I think it is. I really do. I think, well, I guess one thing you will lose is the limiting beliefs, right?
Hmm.
So you are losing things, but they're not innately you, right? It's like shedding the outer shell. It's like getting rid of the cocoon and being the butterfly. It's getting rid of all the stuff that is created where you are that weren't where you were when you were a baby.
Hmm.
It's really connecting with that inner child, that inner place that's you to find what your resilience is. You don't need all of these things to bring you down to rock bottom. All you need to be is curious and question everything. Stop being aware. Don't let other people's opinions sway what's in your gut or in your intuition. Everybody says, oh, that's woo woo. It's not. There's a reason we have an intuition. We are all energy. People forget that we are not matter. There is 99.999% energy in the human body. There's only 0.001% matter. You are created from one cell. That one cell takes energy from the universe to create other cells that become your heart, your liver, your skin, your eyes. Where does that come from? Where does that energy come from? It's part of the universe, it's part of the spiritual element. You're created from one cell and you are a divine being that has its own DNA that's different from everybody else. Your resiliency is part of you.
Okay, I'm soaking that in there. I'm loving how you're talking about the resilience is that not only is it inside everybody, we all have that, but it is that energy.
Mm.
It's the vibration. It's already all around us. It's already there. It's not necessarily something that you acquire, but it's there. We all have it. We just tap into it as we need to. Am I understanding that right?
Yeah, and a good example of that is when I talked about that I was kind of living in the victim mentality of lupus. I was letting the illness define me. I was letting other people's opinions create the cocoon. And that's when your resilience isn't strong, right? You just kind of get into that cocoon and like, okay, well, this doctor said this person said this, I'm reading lists about that. This is how I feel today. Like it's all bringing you into that cocoon. And innately, it's in you that resilience that's like, wait a minute, why? And that's when you break open the cocoon and start letting your wings fly.
That's amazing. What a lovely visual there that is there. Well, this time has flown by, Krystal. It's been amazing. To wrap up, if someone listening out there is at their lowest point right now and they're feeling overwhelmed by health issues, work stress, or personal challenges, what's one piece of advice you'd give them right now to get started on their path to healing and self-empowerment?
I would go to 3 things. I know you asked for 1, but I'm gonna give you 3.
Perfect.
Come into yourself, take the breaths, take the walk, listen to the music, do something that brings you to you, to shut off the noise of others, right? Stop letting the cocoon build. Come into you. Question everything. Get super curious about the why. It's not about the how, right? Everybody wants the how. They want the quick fix. It's not about the how. You find the why, you create the vision, and the how comes naturally. And the third thing is remember all the ways that you were resilient before. Start looking at what else you've gone through and how you persevered. Because we've all been through stuff. Even if it was a breakup in high school, we've all been through stuff. How did you pull yourself out of that? Pull from that. Those are your superpowers.
That's such great advice. Thank you so much, Krystal, for sharing your incredible journey with us today. Your story is truly a powerful reminder of the strength we all have within us and how we can turn even the toughest experiences into sources of growth. We know that your work will inspire so many listeners to embrace their own resilience and transform their lives. Before we go, how can people find you?
So my business is called Crystal Moon Holistic Healing. So you can find me on Facebook and on Instagram. You can also reach out to me by my name, Krystal Robinson, on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Or you can email me through my website, which is crystalmoonholistichealing.com.
Amazing. So if you're listening out there, free spirits, and you're feeling inspired, be sure to check out Krystal's work and learn more about her holistic approach to health and wellness. And as always, if you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with someone who could use a little extra inspiration. Keep flying upstream and keep living your truth.
All right, free spirits, that's all the time we have for today on Flying Upstream.
We hope this episode sparked your curiosity and ignited a desire to explore the extraordinary paths less traveled.
Even when the current feels strong, a whole world of possibilities awaits.
We'll see you next time on the other side of mainstream.
So keep questioning, keep challenging, and most importantly, keep flying upstream.